WJG Sports. We journal great.
What's going on, everybody? This is Kai Jones here from WJG Sports, coming to you again. We're talking more football this week. Of course, it is Friday, so happy Friday to everybody. Hope you're ready for another great slate of games that we got going on this week. If you are currently a member, thank you for being a member. I appreciate you. We are going to be trying to get more content out for you. We actually have games actually only available to you this week as well. So now let's jump right into it. I really didn't get a chance to talk about the Princeton game here yet. Of course, it's the first show. Normally we want to try to do at least 2 a week, but we look at the Princeton and Triple S game. What a game. Triple S really came out and showed everybody that they were not just a one-year thing. They really punched Princeton in the mouth and got them down later on there in that first half, and really just stayed on it. They did a great job of finishing the game. Now, there were a lot of Princeton fans coming out of the game pretty upset about what they saw on the field. But the thing I think that people don't realize is that even though they have a lot coming back, but how this team is and their style of offense, it takes time to get acclimated there for that offensive line. They've had pretty much the same offensive line the past 2 years, so a lot of new pieces there, even though you still had some good bones there as far as, who had been there in the past. It's going to take some time for them to get everything right. I don't think that this was as much about how poorly Princeton played versus how well Triple S played, if you get what I'm saying. The thing about it is that people have to realize is that when you turn the ball over twice, really 3 times if you count the punt over the head as well, it really puts your defense in a tough position. And Triple S just took advantage of that all night long. They were going side to side however long they wanted to. You look at it, Isaiah Dawson and Martez Anderson both had huge games for the Spartans, 2 guys I highlighted there in a preview for them. And really, their offensive and defensive line just really controlled that game. Princeton's not used to having someone do what they normally do to other teams. They're normally the team that's punching you in the mouth. Normally the thing that I hear about Princeton is people are surprised at how physical they are. And really, I think that's just what was lacking here for Princeton, is just they weren't the first and hardest to hit. Really after that first drive, it seemed like things really changed for them going forward. Triple S had a long drive as well. The punt over the snap that was over the punter's head, they had to fall on. That turned into another Triple S touchdown. So really, I have to say that there's a lot of people who probably panic and say, well, this isn't the game that you should lose. But I think it just says more about what Triple S's culture is. I think people forgot that even though they lost a lot from last year, they still had, guys like Jaleel Howell, Josh Hightower, and Jalen Stansel coming back for them. Those are 3 guys who were big on their defensive line, and they played very big that night as well. And then when you had the punch that Isaiah Dawson and Martez Anderson were giving on the offensive end, as well as John Ross Renfro played a really good game. He didn't turn the ball over at all, controlled the game really well, made good decisions on the reads. I don't think they really had too many plays that were losses in the backfield by choosing the wrong option. I think he always kind of picked the right play. So for them, I think people are looking at this and panicking for Princeton, but really it should be more of this was a coming out party for Triple S, that this could be a long-standing thing that we see from Triple S is continued excellence. I think really Coach Donald has done a great job in establishing this program and building something that the kids can kind of rely on. And I think that was just what this is. This was kind of more of their coming out party. I think last year, a lot of people talked about the Fayetteville transfers and things of that nature. Well, it ain't that this year. It is. I think Coach Donald has done a great job of building a program and something that can be long-standing throughout. That being said, I think from what I saw, Princeton, it was still a very good team. I think just from what I saw, you could look at it now and say that Triple S and South Johnston could be two of the top teams in the 3A. In the 3A East this year. And I think Princeton still has a great shot at being a great team in the 2A East. They got a tough matchup coming this week with East Duplin. But the thing about it is, this is the type of schedule that you need if you're Princeton. If you have those championship aspirations, it's better to lose early than to lose late, So I think for the Princeton fans who were very upset, just calm down, that was the first game. I don't think that they expected it to go that way. When you have a young team, especially when you greatly achieved last season, a lot of times they come in thinking that the success is just going to continue. And I think maybe they found out that it's just not quite like that when you're playing high school football. So what I take away from this game is that this game is more about Triple S, not really as much about Princeton's failures or anything of that nature. If Princeton cleans up, doesn't have those 3 turnovers, I think this is possibly a very tight game that maybe would have came down to who had the ball last versus the way it ended at 35-21. So for Princeton, clean up some of the mistakes that you had, get a little bit more physical in the trenches, and I think you'll be fine. For Triple S, I think it's just keep that rolling. I mean, that was a spectacular effort. So I think that is their big key for them. Now, switching gears to the next big game we want to talk about is Eastern Wayne and Southern Wayne. Eastern Wayne, of course, won 28-20, but I think that for Southern Wayne to hang with Eastern Wayne like that, that's a big statement for them. They've 20 points is a lot for them. Normally they're not a team who scores a ton of points. So I think that showed me enough right there where, you could possibly see a playoff team this year. I mean, 6 teams from their conference got in, and there's a possibility that you could see that as well come into play this year. So for them, even though you lose that game, it's big that you had that type of showing, And for Eastern Wayne, as much as you don't want to be in a game like that, it's good for them to see, like, okay, because with how much talent they have in that program, I think right now it would be very easy for how young they are to kind of ride high and believe that they've already arrived. But I think a game like that kind of brings you back to earth and say, okay, we need to keep really working. Especially coming up this week, you have a tough game against Acoc. Acoc got a huge win over Rosewood as well. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But for Eastern Wayne, getting a chance to win, even when you might have not necessarily played your best game, is very important. They had 76 plays, 13 first downs, only 7 penalties. Probably want to clean that up a lot. But, looking at it, winning a game like that, it's important. It gets you on track and focus for this game that you have coming up with Acoc. And Southern Wayne, you get to have a good game for you to watch on film, so you to clean up for when you play Goldsboro. Not this coming up week, but the next week as well. Now, when I talk about Acoc beat Rosewood 32-26, very close game. But I think the thing that sticks out to me is how well they played offensively. 32 points is a big-time number to score on Rosewood. Rosewood normally is a very stout defense, and they have a very good defensive line with Matthew Hilton and Zacharias McLean. But I think that really just it came down to the fact of you look at how the type of playmakers they have. Cam Prince catches the game-winning touchdown. DJ Prince had 3 touchdowns, 5 catches, 115 yards. Daniel Frederick had 235 yards on the ground. Ethan Brock played, pretty outstanding, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So I think if you clean up those turnovers and you keep rolling like this, man, it's going to be hard for them to stop. I mean, that's a lot of offensive firepower right there, just from what I mentioned. So I think for them, that's the big story, is just how eye-poppingly good their offense was. Now, for Rosewood, of course, you get down to start the game pretty early, but you were able to make a comeback. Micah Cox has the nice kickoff return touchdown. So there's a lot of things encouraging, because I believe that Acoc is going to be a team that you have to mention in that 3A East. So for them as a 1A East team, being able to say that, now they have next coming up, I believe they have North Johnston coming up, which North Johnston got a big win. We'll talk about that in just a second. Rosewood for them is just get back on track. They can't be afraid of what their record is going to look like in the non-conference, because I'm telling you, their non-conference is much harder than their conference season. So they can lose. I believe that they'll probably, if you watch the preview, I don't believe that they're going to come out of this non-conference schedule with that great of a record, but I think you're going to see that they're going to have such a great experience because of that it's going to help them in the playoffs and later on down the line. So for Rosewood fans, don't panic too soon. This is not anything to be afraid of. I think that the Eagles will be just fine and will be a deep playoff run team. Now, speaking of their opponent, North Johnston. They came out with a big 38-6 win over Farmville. That was very shocking. I was 10-3 in picks. That was one of the games that I missed, actually. I missed Triple S and Princeton as well, and I believe I missed Spring Creek and Lakewood. But, man, they played great, 38-6. I'm interested to see in what has changed for them. What is the dynamic that would really get them to a place like that? Of course, I think for Farmville, that was probably pretty discouraging, if I'm them. But, Cooper Gibson, like I talked about him, I believe I talked about him in the preview as well. Cooper Gibson had a big day, 229 yards. So I think for them, man, that's great. It's much needed for them. They haven't had a big time win like that in a while, and I think that was very important for the psyche now. Now they can go into this Rosewood game thinking like, maybe we can win it. Princeton losing, it should be very encouraging for them. I don't think they've had a win that could energize them like that in a while. I think they normally take their fair share of lumps there in the beginning of the year. So when they get into conference, I think it's a lot harder for them. But with having that first win out the way, especially as big as it was, I think that confidence can help them kind of ride out through the season and maybe even have a chance to finish with a much better record this year than they have in the past. Now, those were kind of really the big surprises there. Of course, Spring Creek, I did mention them. They lost to Lakewood 52-0. Wayne Christian did actually go up to Halifax Academy and defend their title. That was the team they played in the championship game last year, won 34-28. Then you look at it, Green Central. That was another big one. I'm going to take a second to talk about this one. Green Central 50-0 over North Lenore. I'm telling you guys, this Green Central team is a lot different than the ones they've had in the past. 50 points is big time, but to get a shutout as well. I think that this is going to be one of the best years in Green Central history. They have Kinston this week. This game will really be a complete litmus test of what type of year they're going to have. Personally, I don't normally give up predictions here in this one. I think they'll roll Kinston tonight, probably 2 or 3 touchdowns. And, of course, Trey Corden of Hoop Farm Mixtapes is supposed to be going out there tonight to get some film from me. And, of course, we'll put that up for our members only, so make sure that you are a member if you want to check out the Green Central Rams. They are, like I've been saying all summer, is they have a chance to be a monster year for them this year. And I think that this 50-0 start, even against a team like North Lenore. I think this is still a big time win for them, because otherwise, if they would have won by maybe 2 or 3 touchdowns, I don't think it would have been enough. This 50-0 win really just puts that hammer to the nail there. That this is a team that is for real and could make lot of noise in the 2A East. Now you look at it, continue going on. Goldsboro lost to Clinton 48-6. That's a tough debut for Coach McLaren, but I think that was kind of something that you could have expected. Clinton's has been one of the most dominant teams in the 2A East for a long time, and I think that was pretty much about what most people could foresee happening. But now you have a road game against Douglas Byrd. Douglas Byrd, of course, beat Red Springs in their home opener. So we will see how that goes for them, for going forward this year. This Douglas Byrd should be a game that you should be able to win. You have Southern Wayne and you have Rocky Mount. Rocky Mount took a big beating to Tarboro. So, maybe it gets better from here, as the season goes on. You look at it, we go to Johnston County, throughout the rest of the county. Cleveland, of course, let's take some time to talk about them. 52-12 over Cary. Jackson Burrs, 6 touchdowns in his debut as the starter. The kid is electric. The kid is going to be the next great one that we talk about from Cleveland. There's already been, 3 or 4 guys that have already come through that people probably still remember, but he's going to be, I think he has a chance to break a lot of those Cleveland passing records. He is dynamic. 6 touchdowns in his first game, close to 300 yards. He was one of our top performers this week. It's going to be amazing to see how he grows and develops as the year goes on. I think the thing for Cleveland that you're worried about is you didn't have a lot of yards on the ground, but there's plenty of time for the running game to develop. It's a lot different runner in the backfield than there has been in years past. So it'll take some time to develop, but with your passing game already being where it's at, your defense does hold 12 points, for a 4A team. I think this is still a good place to be for Cleveland. They go into this matchup with Rose, and, I feel pretty confident for Cleveland in this particular instance. Even though Rose got a big 50-7 win over Hunt, which was very surprising. Very, very surprising, just considering the type of team that we've known Hunt to be. But, you look around the rest of Johnston County, Clayton took a beating to Grimsley, which I pretty much expected. Grimsley is still one of the top teams in the entire state. I think if you probably, regardless of classification, they're probably still a top 10 team in the state. If you were looking at it like that, probably, some might even say top 5, top 3 in that range. So, not surprising, but Clayton did not get shut out. I believe the score, let me pull it up right here, was 42-14. So you get 2 touchdowns there. I think that's a lot better than they've done in the past. I think this is a good sign for Clayton that, hey, you have a chance. You weren't completely out of it. It's 4 touchdowns. That's not great, but I think they have an opportunity this year to still be very good. This week they have a road test with Wake Forest. Unsure how that's going to go. Wake Forest did get a big win over Southern Durham. But, who's to say? I mean, Wake Forest has been one of the most dominant programs in the last 5 or 10 years, so this could be another big test for Clayton. If they can win this one, it would be huge for them. If they lose, I think it's just you have to look at it as another lesson, another chance that you got better, basically. Now, you roll to Corinth Holders. They got a big win over Franklinton. That was one of the ones that I got right. I thought that Corinth was going to be better than Franklinton. Now they get a big test against Southern Nash, which has been one of the best 3A programs in the state for the past 4 or 5 years. Of course, they had Jackson Vic go to NC State. Darius, I can't think of his name right now. But they've had guys go to NC State. They've had football players who have done big things. So Southern Nash, to me, is, going to be a good test for them. It's, of course, Corinth Holders, they won 39-20. I think Corinth, this could be one of their better seasons that they've had in a while as well. I believe that they could possibly be could host a playoff game this year, which I think would be huge for them from where they've been in the last couple of years. Now, of course, the last only two I haven't touched on yet, West and South Johnston. South Johnston rolled to a 31-7 victory over Western Hornet. Let me make sure it was Western Hornet. I think it might have been Hornet Central, actually. Let me see. Always takes a little while for South Johnston to come up here on this Max Prep side. It was 31-7. But I think for South Johnston, the thing I like a lot is, your quarterback was 17 for 27, 136 yards, a touchdown. Then you got a big contribution there from Aiden Williams, a junior in the offense. So, I think that's good. 22 carries, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns. You had a couple of sacks there from Jacob Robinson. Overall, just a really good win for them. I think they are on the right track, really, when it comes to being a good team. Of course, I have predicted them to have a very big season. If you don't know, members only can go watch my predictions for them. I think they'll have one of their better seasons they've had in a long time as well. This is I think it's a team that's prepped that they can go far. I think it's going to be really interesting. Triple S is their 4th game of the year. That is going to be huge. That'll pretty much, with Hunt losing the way that they did, that might be the decider of who wins the conference this year, potentially. So, South Johnston, they had a very good game there, and I think for them, just keep rolling, keep moving forward. That's just their big thing. They got Triton this week. It's a rivalry game in name. Don't know if it'll be a very close game, though. But I've heard a lot of good things about Triton, so maybe, of course, you have to watch my predictions to see who I actually pick. Now, moving on to West Johnston, they also had a very good game. They beat Hornet Central 28-13. They were able to, TJ Jennings, seven passes, 7 completions for 38 yards and a touchdown. Had an interception, but, their running game was just so dominant with Elijah Brooks, the senior running back there. That I think they're going to be fine. They hit 2 big passing plays there with they have a chance, really, and a great chance to win. Of course, one of our big performers was Booth Hamrick. Booth Hamrick, excuse me, 2 sacks, 9 tackles, one of the best defensive performances this week. For me, I think the Wildcats, they have a good chance to still be a playoff team. I think that's, for me, that's where I think they are. I think they're kind of right there in that. I think right now the first tier, if I had to put tiers in the QCC right now, was probably Triple S and South Johnston. I think West Johnston's right there in that second half that could potentially make that move up as the year goes on. You have Acoc in there as well, along with Hunt and Fike. It's a lot. It's a lot happening here right now in the WJG era. A lot of good football teams, a lot of great things going on. But now let me look at our top performers here for this week. Now, of course, our top passer for this week, Jackson Bird, sophomore QB from Cleveland, 14 passes completed, 23 attempts, 221 yards, 5 touchdowns, 7 carries, 51 yards, and 1 touchdown. So big time. Big time there for Jay Boogie, as they call him, sophomore QB out of Cleveland. Now you look at our running back, we have senior running back Daniel Frederick, 27 carries, 235 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 fumble recovery. Big game for the Elon commit. He has been one of the most steady contributors over the last 2 or 3 years. And I think this year you're going to finally see him have just an absolute breakout year. Could potentially be a Player of the Year candidate. I don't know if I said that in the opener or not. Now, you look at senior wide receiver DJ Prince. Of course, DJ, 5 catches, 115 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 tackle, 1 kickoff return for 16 yards. Big game for him. I think DJ could have a chance to play some college football if that's something that he wants to pursue. He is really athletic, and how long he is, I think he can be one of the top receivers around this area by far. Now you move to our defensive side. Sophomore strong safety Van Smith coming in with 12 tackles, tied for the 9th most in the state this week. So big game, 12 tackles for him for a sophomore. 2025 class looks like it's going to be just all right. Now we have the our top sacker of the week is Booth Hamrick. 2 sacks, 9 tackles, top 30 in the state. Only 30 other players got multiple sacks in one game this week, and he's one of those 30. So big time game for the senior outside linebacker Booth Hamrick. Now, of course, coaches, if you want your players to get a chance to be on this graphic, make sure that you're putting your stats up. That's the only way we can know. Or either send the stats to us, and we'll figure it out and get them out there like that. So now I'm going to finish off here with the top 5 rankings. Let's start with number 1. Cleveland is going to remain at the top. Yes, I know it's hard because Cleveland's been at the top and they're going to stay at the top for a while, but to me, it's hard to beat the Rams and Coach Riley and what they do over there. So they're going to stay at number 1. At number 2, we have a team that is moving up all the way from number 4 to number 2, South Johnston. They come in right there at number 2 just because of they beat Western Harnett. And I feel really confident about their performance, seeing their offense perform the way that they did. Really has galvanized me to say that this is a team that will be just similar to last year and be a very good team, one of the best teams in the area. Number 3, we're going to keep Eastern Wayne right there at number 3. They were number 3 last week. Having a close call there against Southern Wayne, even though it's the first game, still a bit concerning. Of course, that could also change when they play Acoc this week. Acoc's a very good test, so I think you could potentially see them being right there, potentially to move up. Now, number 4, definitely Triple S. They earned it this week. They beat the number 2 team from last week. I might move them up again after I see how they play against Nash Central. But being able to see what they did against Princeton, that was big time for me, being able to be like, yeah, we got to give it to Triple S. So, yeah, the Spartans, they are moving up. They have a chance to move up to number 2 or number 1 this week, just depending on how things play out this week. Now, number 5, Green Central Rams, stay right there at number 5. Now, of course, seeing how they play against Kinston could move them up as well. You know, the chances every week teams could move up. So, you know, they could move up, could move down. You know, I think right now, if there was a number 6 and 7, I think right now those 2 teams will probably be Acoc and Princeton right now. Princeton has to kind of earn their way back. They have a big game against East Duplin, could have a chance to win and put it right there. That would be the thing that could put them right up there, back into that top 5. Acoc has a chance to knock off Eastern Wayne and get into that top 5 as well. So right now, that is currently the top 5 teams in the WJG area. Now, going to leave you with this. Please go ahead and sign up for our members only. I will have picks up there tonight as well for tonight's games, as well as we're going to have some exclusive content tonight as far as game highlights. So go ahead, if you're a Cleveland fan, if you're a Green Central fan, go ahead and subscribe to our members only program. We thank you guys. All the money that you put into us goes right back out there onto the field. I'm always trying to figure out ways to do more and to do better for you guys. So help me be able to do that. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you. Make sure that you're subscribing to our YouTube, that you are following us on Twitter, and that you are following us on IG and liking us on Facebook over there on WJG Sports. Thank you for support. Love, peace. Have a great Friday. It should be a great slate of games.